Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Walk. Today is Monday, October 7th, and today we are continuing in Ezekiel 16. We're doing that deep dive of the whole book of Ezekiel. And last week when we started Ezekiel 16, we saw that the Lord was saying that Israel was a nation that was basically thrown aside as if it were a newborn baby and just left to die. And then God took this nation and nurtured her and cared for her, and she became God's bride. Well, now we are going to start to get into where God continues, Ezekiel continues this analogy of the nation being God's bride, but it's talking about a bride that is not faithful. Some of the content in here, you may not like some of the words. You may not want some of the words to be said in front of children. So I'm going to give you that little disclaimer. You may not want to have children in the room because it's talking about unfaithfulness and it's talking about prostitution and things like that. And it uses some pretty severe words. So that brings us to Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 23, which says, "And after all your wickedness, woe, woe to you, declares the Lord God. You built yourself a vaulted chamber and made yourself a lofty place in every square." So what were these lofty vaulted chambers and lofty places? They were places where idolatrous worship was erected, and it was erected at every street corner or every square. Verse 25. "At the head of every street you built your lofty place and made your beauty an abomination, offering yourself to any passerby and multiplying your whoring. You also played the whore with the Egyptians, your lustful neighbors, multiplying your whoring to provoke me to anger." The Egyptian society was very heavy into idolatry, and instead of following God and staying true to Him, they were unfaithful and they started worshiping these idols. "Behold, therefore, I stretched out my hand against you and diminished your allotted portion and delivered you to the greed of your enemies, the daughters of the Philistines, who were ashamed of your lewd behavior." So God let them go astray. He let them end up in a horrible situation and let them fall to the greed of their enemies. Verse 28, "You played the whore also with the Assyrians," also an idolatrous culture, "because you were not satisfied. Yes, you played the whore with them, and still you are not satisfied. You've multiplied your whoring also with the trading land of Chaldea. Even with this, you are not satisfied." So here these Israelites, these people in Jerusalem, have God right there. They can worship God. They've got the temple. They know that God's presence is in the temple. And instead of looking to Him and staying focused on Him, what are they doing? They're looking at all these other nations and all these other idols, and they're worshiping them instead. And in the Cultural Study Bible, it said that the woman who incarnates the city of Jerusalem is so restless and dissatisfied that she roams the squares looking for new lovers. So it's not only that they were unfaithful to God, they're looking for new idolatry. They're looking for new ways to worship something, anything other than God. She is unable to, this is still the Cultural Study Bible, she is unable to achieve her role of a wife and mother. She kills her children and abandons her husband. Such a description may suggest to Israelites in Babylon the goddess Inanna, the patroness of prostitutes. As in this portrayal of Jerusalem, she is a restless and a perpetually dissatisfied goddess who abandons her lovers one after another. Then we get to 16, verse 30. "How sick is your heart, declares the Lord God, because you did all these things, the deeds of a brazen prostitute, building your vaulted chamber at the head of every street and making your lofty place in every square. Yet you were not like a prostitute, because you scorned payment. Adulterous wife who receives strangers instead of her husband. Men give gifts to all prostitutes, but you gave your gifts to all your lovers, bribing them to come to you and from every side with your whorings. So you are different from other women in your whorings. No one solicited you to play the whore. You gave payment, while no payment was given to you. Therefore, you were different. So not only are they unfaithful to God, looking for anything to worship that's not of God, but in this analogy of being a whore, instead of receiving payment and receiving something of benefit for it, they are paying to be involved in this idolatry. What are they paying with? They're paying with that separation from God. They're allowing themselves to get more and more separated because they think it's more attractive. Think about how that plays into our culture. Anything other than God, that's what people are focused on, and it's no different today. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.